It's for the public, which want to make sure they're not individual. But they just take that.
I just want to confirm, Carla, I can see you on camera. Can you hear me? Can you raise your hand if you can hear me? Somebody, I can't see you on screen anymore. Okay, thank you. Thank you. So we're going to start off the evening like we love to do, and we're going to celebrate a few students in the audience. When I call your name, please come up. Allow your parents to take a photo and then stay up here. We're going to let you guys take one group photo. So we're here tonight to celebrate our talented students who participated in the Art Supervisors Association All County Art Exhibition. Okay. Oh, 5 times fast, I think. Angie Alfaro. I think some of our students might have their artwork with them as well to show.
You want to get an individual shot of each one and then group one up? I think it's just.
Vivian Barraget. I apologize. Amelia Byro. Maya Plum. Gianna Gallo. Ariana Geeson. Serene Lewis. Up and take her award.
Mrs. Lewis, come on down.
I was like, I know she's here. I see her mother. Sorry. Oh, are you?
You guys have to take pictures though. No, you do, yeah.
You can just go like this. Congratulations.
It's important.
Karen Orozco Castro. Mia Isabel Oyales. Nicole Noel. Ariella Uloa Nunez. I apologize. Gabriela Maria Baca. Okay, we're gonna have you guys stand right here, and Nakeem, you guys want to come this way a little, so Nakeem can kind of make your photo.
No, Mrs. Brown, you have to stay in the picture.
Stand with the adult.
You guys need to scoot down to your right, Mrs. Brown, move to your
To the
right.
right,
To your left.
to my left. This way.
Oh, yeah, you're on the left.
No, this is my left, Dan.
Oh.
We good, Nakeem? Everybody else good? Oh, Miss Lambo's trying to take a photo. Just jump right back one more time. Get the kids.
It's the kids.
Yeah,
Shoes, glasses.
Okay. The students that were not able to be here to be represented tonight will get their certificates. We've given them to Miss Sales. And congratulations again to everybody in the room. Those of you that are here with your students, if they have homework to go, they can go and take care of their homework. If you'd like to join us for the rest of the meeting, you're more than welcome.
I will. This is not my life.
That's like myself.
Now that we've given everybody the opportunity to take their leave and it's home homework. Thank you, everybody, for joining us this evening. We have a few dockets. We're gonna also go over the budget one more time. And there will be 2 periods for questions and answers. I need a motion to move docket 3-285 through 3-288.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor? Aye, motion passes. We have no Board of Ed report tonight. PTA, PTSA, and SEPTA. Is anybody in the audience from any of those 3? Go ahead,
Hi,
Mrs. Kim.
Stephanie Tampini, PTA. The really big thing we have to tell you about is our big social dinner. We're very excited. It's May 2nd. You should be excited as well. We're gonna have over 100 raffle baskets and we have $100 door prize to somebody, so that pays for your ticket. And the great thing is it's our big fundraiser and the PT is completely funded by donations. So that will really predict like the year coming, what we can do, what we cannot do. And we love to have a lot of great events for the kids. So please come out, please support them, buy some raffle tickets, pretty please.
Okay, thank you very much. PTSA and or SEPTA, anybody in the audience? Okay. Our student representative tonight is Samaya Monselman. Go ahead.
Hi, I will be representing student council today. I'm sorry. For student council, we would like to thank everybody who donated for our annual Dress What It Says clothing drive. We donated we donated the dresses and the clothes on Saturday, this past Saturday, and we also would like to announce that we are starting to prepare for annual multicultural night scheduled for Friday, May 17th. This year's theme is Sweetness Has No Borders, where we will highlight desserts from around the world and also keep an eye out for the flyers with more information is coming out through emails. For Key Club, it's spring cleanout time for Key Club food and supply pantry. Any student interested in earning community service hours can contact Ms. Zuluaga for more information on volunteering. So if you would like to tell your students to contact Ms. Zuluaga, that would be great. Thank you very much. And SAD will be hosting a Mix It Up Day during the lunch period in the cafeteria on Friday, April 19th. We have 2 more clubs, the ENL Club. The ENL Club celebrates spring by decorating eggs and making baskets with traditional grass and candy. We discuss how the holidays celebrate in their home countries and gain better understanding of the traditions of their new country. In addition, the ENL Club sponsored the team of ENL students to participate in this year's quiz ball. They had a wonderful time. Miss Ferguson wanted to share an awesome experience in the ENL 10th grade class. They read the novel Outsiders by S.E. Hinton, and they learned about life in the 60s. They visited the Nassau County Museum of Park on April 10th and explored the exhibit of street art that made its vibrant appearance in Oklahoma during the late 60s and 70s, where the stories takes place connecting language and history. Lastly, we have Class Club. This year, we had a wonderful week leading up to the event and a great turnout for class night. The students decorated the circle on Monday with the class students, and it was very fun to see the reaction the class on Tuesday upon entering the school. We won. Seniors won, by the way.
Shocker.
We deserved it. Class representatives were busy on Friday transforming the section in the gym with posters, streamers, and balloons. The gym was full of spirit that night, and the students performed their class dancing and competed in rallies and sports events. In the end, the seniors prevailed, and we're very excited to have the last class night and a victory. The coordinators would like to thank all the parents for their support and profile events. Thank you.
You can also go do your homework. Thank you very much for joining us. That was a wonderful report.
My, who won?
Can I bring
Then you-
Tupperware to that dessert night?
My, who won?
Yes.
Tell her,
Who won?
I want to bring Tupperware.
Tell her
Maya, who won?
there's nobody there.
I'm not talking to you. My, who won?
The seniors.
What color were the seniors this year? What color were the seniors this year?
Purple.
Purple. That's your
We all had
color?
the shirts, the best, everything.
At this time, we're gonna move on to the superintendent's report. Mr. Raymond?
Before I yield the floor to Mr. Phillips to review budget presentation, I'd just like to share a few things. Good evening, everyone. Someone said to me the other day, no one wins a social media fight. I have to agree. There've been a few misunderstandings that have come across my desk that I think need clarification. First, regarding the budget and coding of expenses. One of the board trustees mentioned needing help locating, understanding certain budget codes. I agreed. I directed our business official, Mr. Phillips, to consolidate 3 previous separate codes under one unified doors code. While doors may not be the most descriptive name, this consolidated code has properly been used to fund facility projects besides doors, like boiler repairs. At times, we need to be flexible and utilize funds from certain budget areas for unexpected. However, this is a standard operating procedure, not mismanagement or an attempt to hide anything from the public. Second misunderstanding is the notion that the district is hiding money. Like all school districts, we maintain reserve funds as a savings account. When creating the annual budget, our revenues must equal our projected expenses. This is something a couple people asked me to point out. When Mr. Phillips gets to the slide, I'll jump in, not to interrupt him or think he cannot handle it, but I just want to point a couple of things out. The state aid we receive is not enough to cover all of our costs, and our district has limited revenue sources. So just like most districts, we prudently utilize our reserve funds to balance the budget when needed. Our goal is to minimize using reserves and replenish them when possible at year end. Fortunately, we had no surplus to add back to reserves like we have in the past, but having these funds is crucial for managing uncertainties. Another misconception is that our school buildings are underutilized or empty. I encourage you to visit and see the elementary reading class on the auditorium stage, or the occupational therapists, E&L teachers, and others sharing a classroom out of necessity. Spreading misinformation to sway community opinion is as unproductive as aligning with known purveyors of intolerance. Since the 2% tax cap has taken effect, this district has always, and I don't see why it wouldn't continue, staying within that limit on tax levy increases. Moving forward, we are going to continue to look for feasible cost savings while also trying to prudently rebuild our reserve funds as a financial safety net. In closing, I caution against the illusory truth effect, the tendency for repeated false claims to be received as truthful over time. We must be aware of the negative self-talk and unfounded notions we tell ourselves repeatedly until we believe them. This obstructs personal growth and poisons interaction in the external world. And if anyone thinks it's directed at anyone particular, I'm just going to say this. It's pointed at no one and everyone. My job as representing the community is to represent the school-age children of this community. I'm not going to apologize for that ever. It's my job to educate them all the time. I appreciate your attention this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Phillips, you're off.
Thank you very much and welcome to the 2024-25 budget discussion and adoption meetings.
Pete wants to turn the lights off. Hold on a second. Oh,
Maybe not that
Pete.
much.
Pete. I mean, we're not thinking.
Save money on electricity.
It's one way to save money.
Right.
Here's the,
Sorry.
no problem. So here's the timeline for the budget process. While it shows March 5th as a starting point, the actual starting point goes back to last year when district administration met to work on their own budgets at the school and department level. Information received at that point was incorporated into the district budget. I'd like to thank all those that helped out at that time and continue to help out to this day. There are many factors to go into the construction of the district's budget. A few are shown on the slide: instructional need, district costs, medical insurance, and contractual obligations of some of those. Proposed 24-25 budget is $77,899,290. Shown in the slide is a breakdown by function of the expenditure budget. By a significant amount, the largest percentage increase is transportation, which is projected to increase by 16.78%. The next largest increase is employee benefits, but that's approximately 10% less at 6.85%. There may numerous mandated expenses that the district has no control over. Some of them are shown on this slide, such as regulatory items for school districts, pension contributions, E&L, special education, voiding, and financial compliance items. These are both at the federal level and state level. Medical insurance is projected to increase by more than $1 million next year. Transportation costs are expected to increase by almost $1.2 million. A majority of that is related to private school transportation, where we have over 1,200 students going to more than 100 schools. As this slide shows, transportation has increased by over 139% over the past 10 years. Over the last 5 years, it has sharply increased. As shown in this slide, transportation as a percentage of the overall budget is significantly higher for West Hempstead compared to other school districts. For Malvern, 6%. For Rockville Center, 4%. In 2022-23 for West Hempstead, it was 10%. For the 24-25 budget, transportation expense is scheduled to be 12% of the overall budget. Spending per student includes all costs for all students, and West Hempstead has been fiscally prudent in its spending, as shown in this chart. There are costs for students, for private school students, that are part of the district's overall budget, and we support them. These are costs in the millions. We'll now move on to revenues. The proposed revenue budget is $77,899,290, matching the expenditure budget. State aid is only projected to increase by 2.16% for West Hempstead. While foundation aid has been a topic of conversation the past month, school districts are still waiting for the actual real number from the states. A prior slide showed transportation costs increasing by $1.2 million. The state aid budget run from January showed an increase of $56,270 only. The governor's budget from January showed that the district would receive $128,000, $417 less than if she followed the formula she said she would use in past years. Hopefully, with the details of the approved budget that was released this coming week, hopefully it'll show a restoration of this $128,000. While the budget is still late, the governor did announce an agreement on budget issues, but the actual release of information has not been forthcoming. We are at the point of the budget process where we have to use what we have. The tax levy limit formula uses multiple factors. Those are shown on this slide, circled in yellow. Only one of these factors is the 2% cap. The tax levy limit for 24-25 is $50,647,344, or 2.34%. West Hempstead's tax levy increase of 2.34% puts the district below the midpoint of all school districts in Nassau County, as shown in this slide. Over the last 5 years, the average tax levy change for West Hempstead was the 15th lowest in Nassau County out of 56 school districts.
So this is the slide I was mentioning before. So we like to say in jest internally, fourth grade math lesson, revenues have to equal expenditure, right? So once we determine, Mr. Phillips determines what the expenses will be for the year, takes any potential revenues that we receive. Like we said, mainly we get state aid and the rest we have to go to the taxpayer and ask for. But each year, you see that on the right, the bar on the right where it says revenues and the section that's in black, but that's in black on the screen. That's the savings account, just in simple terms. You'll hear the word reserves, or you'll hear fund balance, or you'll hear things like that. But we do that each year. I've been in this district now about 15 years, and it's been this way. And other districts do it as well. You have to make the budget balance. People use reserves. So we try not to use those reserves so that we can put it back at the end of the year and then reuse it the following year. Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and say that we've never had more than that original amount. We have. This year, don't have basically much left at all. And sad of me to say, but we do have to access teachers on top of it. So when there's conversations around this idea of we're holding on, let's say use the words, holding on to money. There has to be some semblance of a saving. You don't have a savings account. I'll give you a couple of quick examples. The boiler breaks next year and there's no money anywhere. How do we fix the boiler? One year, it's not even, it's funny now, but it wasn't funny at the moment. But in the auditorium at what was then the high school, one of the tiles from the ceiling fell. That caused superintendent at the time to shut down the auditorium, and we had to replace the entire ceiling. That's an emergency expense. That's not something you would budget for. You wouldn't think of that. Another example, going back, I don't know, about a decade ago. Doesn't matter. At Chestnut Street, a brick was found on the sidewalk. Upon investigation, the wall, that section of Chestnut Street was separating from the building. It has to be fixed. So there are times when you need, and you always need to have some semblance. And I guess that's where the conversation, I'll say, occurs is how much. And that's a fair argument. That's fine. To say zero, it's not reality. It's just not based in reality. So I bring this point up only because some people ask me to, from various people in the community. what this means. That's what it means. That black box there, or rectangle, represents us taking money out of our savings account to make the budget balance. Our intent is always, didn't matter if I was principal of Chestnut Street or superintendent of schools, was to never spend that money. So that we can put it back, then use it the following. I'm going to be transparent and truthful, just like we always are. Sometimes we have more and we put it in the same schedule. This year we're not. And there's been other years have not. So I think that's important for people to understand. So,
Thank you. So, anytime, expenditures are greater than revenues, it's deficit. If anybody says we're in a surplus situation, they're not telling the full story. Reserves are a mechanism for school districts to set aside funds in good financial times so that they be used in bad financial times with declining revenue. Reserve usage is dictated by state law. It can only be used for specific reasons. Reserves are a restricted kind of fund balance. There's also unrestricted fund balance that can be kept, which is 4%, up to 4% of the budget. These funds are to be used for unforeseen expenses as described by the superintendent. Having unrestricted fund balance is seen by the state and our auditors as proper budgeting. This slide shows the past 4 years usage of reserves of fund balance. It has grown from approximately $3 million to projection for next year of $5 million. Increased use of reserves and fund balance is not sustainable. You must put the money away sometimes to be able to use it. At some point, you will run out. Once reserves and fund balance are depleted, how do we solve emergency costs that, such as a ceiling or a boiler? Without fund balance, what do we do? The West Hempstead School District continues its initiatives for students, as shown on this slide. These include items such as project-based learning, college credit offerings, and building pathways in the humanities, STEM, and arts. New courses include the CTE pathway in financial management, broadcasting, and 3D art and sculpture classes. The district continues its partnership, NYU Langone, the Vision Scholarship Program, the peer mentoring program for NYU, the Delphi residency programs, and the STEM program at Delphi. Primary project with Children's Institute, where Chestnut Street and Cornwall were the first schools in Long Island to be recognized by the Children's Institute for their program, and the Nassau Community College dual enrollment program. Student achievement includes the 95% graduation rate for West Hempstead School District. Successful code competitions, the seals of our literacy and civic readiness, News 12 scholar athletes, and Long Island basketball championships. The district has all county musicians, artists as you're doing tonight, showcasing their work, and a winning junior virtual enterprise team. The budget vote is Tuesday, May 21st. Please remember to vote at the secondary school gym from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. At this time, we'll take questions.
We'll take questions from the board at this time. Do you have any questions from the board at this time?
First question, I was curious, especially with hearing what's going on with the state, and even though they're trying to figure out to give more money, it's a possibility that schools that have gotten more money than last year, they might take some from it. What happens if we approve a budget and then we get less state aid?
Unfortunately,
How does that affect?
we will adopt the budget as is, and we'll have to work with it. But unfortunately, it's really difficult based on the timing of the state's budget approval. We were hoping before the state, but our level of state aid is the one that's in the budget.
All right, so the budget could still stay the same, we just have less revenue coming in, and we hope that it's enough, which we probably have enough. Right?
Substantially different. Hopefully it's in the other direction.
All right, good.
just as a,
Yeah.
just for historical perspective, Cuomo 1, Cuomo 1 versus Cuomo 2, he was notorious for not getting budgets done in time. We don't like this because we're so used to having the budget in a timely fashion. Unfortunately, districts have experienced this in the past.
I did have a conversation, I'm just gonna say, I did have a conversation with one of our politicians the other day who was headed back up to Albany, and they said that they were extremely hopeful to have a budget this week. You know what you can do with hope at this point,
In
because,
today's Newsday,
what,
passed today's.
it
Newsday.
did it?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that would be nice.
And money has increased, we just don't know
Who's getting it?
who's getting what.
Not like,
That'll be nice. Let's see if it really comes down that way. But we have in years past, not often here, but we have lost money. Or I shouldn't say we've lost money when the budget comes out, but they don't fund what they say they're gonna fund after they say they're giving you this much.
So does that mean we have to use more reserve to make up any balance?
Or we don't
Or we
fund the
don't?
project
Or we,
or
or
whatever.
we cut a project?
we have to go back, we'd have to go back.
But we're gonna hope that that's not.
Right.
The other thing is I just want to make a comment. So it's not really a question, but it's just where my concern is in general. So I'm hoping and I want to go and end up voting for this budget this year. Even though I have concerns in the long term, which is why I bring up a lot of times the financial long.
Could you use the
term.
microphone?
Sure. So basically what I'm saying is, my concern is the long term. This year's budget is just a predecessor to what we're going to probably be seeing moving forward. No matter what happens with new budget, no matter what happens with the state aid formula, there's no expectation that West Hempstead will get any significant increase from the state aid, which means that this year's problem and this year where we had to access certain amounts of staff is quite possibly going to happen in the future with us needing to use more and more reserves. So I want us to, at least as a team over this next year, think about whatever crazy ways we can find to save in the budget, because it's going to mean next year loss of more teachers and more faculty if we do not find solutions. So that was my big concern over the whole year and the whole budget season. We're at the time now that we're going to have to vote, and this is going to be the best that we can do. But we really need to try for next year, because I don't like seeing us having to access anything more than we really have to. Thank you.
I'm gonna speak for myself, but I don't think anybody up here wants to have that problem next year. And we're all in a position where some of us have been here where we've gotten to this point before and then it turned around. But I think we're all looking to work and see where we can make changes and what we can do to increase revenue and move forward next year. Do we have any other questions for this time? There was a question, Mrs. Phillips, that came up over and over again with some people that I was speaking to. So I am going to ask this before it may or may not come as a question from the audience. Can you just briefly explain what a pilot is so that the audience and the members that are out virtually, if they see this, they understand it?
Right, so in our sense, the two primary givers of pilots would be the Town of Hempstead IDA or Nassau County IDA. And there's an agreement made between the property owner and where basically Nassau County or the Hempstead would actually buy the property, make the agreement with the property owner, a set schedule will be made for a payment in lieu of taxes. So, which is usually less, I would say substantially, but less than they would pay at market rate. So while they do get their tax bill part calculation, but they do not pay it, they're taking off the tax rolls, whether it's class 4 commercial or to, I mean, it really depends on the pilot. While we do have LIPA, which has a statutory pilot, it's a little different, but they do make payments just less than what they would have been paying if they were still on the rolls. And there's a calculation for all taxpayers, and with that less of value, it does affect other taxpayers in that class.
Right, but it's not, so just to be sure I'm explaining this to everybody correctly, or that people are understanding when I'm saying it, should probably saying it better. It does affect everybody in the community. However, we don't get to make the decision whether or not they get a pilot or not. That comes from.
We all make
the
the
idea.
decision and we also decide, we don't make this decision about how much we get. There's a schedule, whether it's a 10-year, 20-year, 30-year pilot. We know from day one how much they'll be paying, but that amount split amongst school taxes, in our case, library, also general taxes. So we would get a percent of that, and often it's less than what they would get if they would have been paying at the full rate.
And it increases over the course of the years, or it's that
It should
same amount?
increase, the schedule should increase. It usually escalates after year 3, but it just, it could increase based on the fact that it's going to generate more revenue for the town or Nassau County, over time.
Okay, and, I don't know if it was here last week or somebody that I spoke to also was asking, I know the conversation came up about the storefront churches and the, you know, homes that are off the tax rolls, and people kept asking, why are people mentioning that? Why are people mentioning that? Same reason that we were having the conversation last week about the pilots, and that being something, a burden that's passed on amongst all the homeowners and the other commercial properties. Those are also a burden that are passed on amongst the other homeowners. It's just like if you get a 10% tax increase for a senior exemption or something, the rest of the community is picking up that 10% and spreading it out over the rest of the community. So that also falls the same when it's, you know, either a home or a school or a storefront church. So just so we understand that these are all facts and we want people to have the facts. It's not a matter of, anybody being argumentative, but people are asking the questions, so we want to make sure that the answers are getting out there fast. Do we have any other questions? No. So at that time, we've now reached the period for district residents or employees of the district to address the board. This individual will be limited to 3 minutes of non-confidential agenda items with an overall maximum of 20 minutes if needed. Do we have questions from the audience?
I just have one question. I noticed that some school districts have already put their budget proposals in Newsday, because I know there's a time frame. So what happens with, do we just announce it in the paper, even though we don't know what we're getting from the state?
Are you asking if they put their report card in?
I don't think
Newsday,
it's
or
report
if
that
they
they announced.
their
Yeah,
tax?
there were quite a few in the last week or so.
They might have had their meeting already,
Yeah.
and then eventually it will go out. I mean, I don't,
We had to advertise 4 times
Yeah,
before, and we've
okay.
advertised twice so far on Newsday.
Right.
I don't see us changing our advertisement, but the wording does not include what we adopt here tonight yet.
So what gets adopted tonight, I know we've done it in the past, I think, when our revenue changes from the state, whatever the state gives us. There's no way of sending out another set of flyers to the community. The cost is astronomical. We know that. So
unless the state gives us that, and I.
Yeah, we don't know what we're getting.
Unless the state gives us that much money,
Yeah.
this number.
I mean, I tried to Google it. They haven't done that formula yet.
Right.
They just at least settled on that there's more. I mean, it was a good article. I said, well, it's about time. And they're going to work on foundation aid, the formula, which is, you know, I'll be dead by the time.
I am waiting to see
How
that.
many years ago I brought that up in Albany? I know. But, so, but if we do receive more, how does the community get to know that?
Well, it would.
You would announce the revenue, okay, just so everybody understands that.
And we'd also put it out on the website and social. media.
Right,
We'd
okay.
make sure we communicate very formal.
So, thank you.
Do we have any other questions in the audience at this time? There will be a period at the end as well. Mr. Zelig? I'm sorry. Mr. Zelig, I'm sorry. Can you, I can't hear you very well.
Okay, so, on the first of all, thanks for the presentation. On the transportation slide, can you just confirm the transportation aid amount again? I know we talked about it, so I forgot what it was. But what's the amount of transportation aid you get against that number? So what's the next number?
It's actually part of the state budget. I can't answer that right now, but it might change probably Thursday when the state comes out with a number, but
What was last year?
20%. I mean, depends on it. I'll get you the actual number, but it'll change this week possibly. I want to get ready.
You know what we got last year?
Yeah.
It's right there.
Well, 4.3 from last year.
$4,306,258.
Like, it depends on the transportation, certain don't get aided, so it's, you want to know about the overall, that's the number in the slide, so it's truly that revenue number for transportation is correct. So that expense is correct for expense, and the revenue from the state perspective is $4,362,475 is projected for this year based on the January budget.
Thank you.
Can I follow up, just for clarification? Is there a linkage between the two? I think that's part of.
There's a ratio, but it's depending on the actual.
So the more you spend, the more you get, or vice
Depends
versa,
on it.
unless you get.
Should be, but depends on the type of transportation.
Like, not every route is aidable.
Got it.
So it depends on the route.
That helps. Not here.
Wait, can we come back
Oh,
to
sorry,
us?
yeah.
Only because I don't want to take up their time. Is there any other questions from the audience before I go back to the board asking questions? I'm short, I'm sorry, I'm looking for him.
I'll ask one more question about the buses. So are the bus contracts going up in cost? I mean, we
Yeah.
saw that significant increase from COVID. We know when all the buses stopped working. And so do we know what that percentage is?
Yeah.
Our major bus company is not till next year. Skirted that for now.
Oh, that's good.
But I think we talked a little bit about this last week. Some of the routes are new. Some of the routes have, we've had to go out to bid. But those are individual routes, not the combination of the two.
So do we know what the percentage increase is, what these companies are going to charge?
Oh, well,
And we were at the-
well, I can tell you what some of the big companies did to other districts this year, just as round numbers. You heard anywhere from 30% to 40%.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
If you went out to bid.
And the explanation, I won't say excuse, but the explanation is, they're moving to green, or they're moving to gas, or they're moving to some version of something, but they haven't.
We're at their mercy. You don't have no choice.
I also believe that at my Nassau Suffolk meetings, the conversation has been, you can't get bus drivers, so now they're also increasing salary of the drivers so that they can get bus drivers. So,
It's in the
we'll see.
paper all the
To an-
time.
you know, to an extent, because
Yeah.
they're still not gonna pay them enough money,
Yeah, yeah.
whatever.
Many of them
Giselle,
are
you had your hand up again?
Okay, that's a good question, and this is Kelsey, and I just wanted to follow up on that, just. I know earlier in the year, we talked about, potentially looking into hiring a consultant to review some of the transportation routes and to review that. Is it something that we're gonna do or something we could look into more?
We have, and we will continue to. There was a company, and people want to debate it, but that's a fact now. One of the people that potentially looking at, they're dealing in illegal routes and illegal busing, so I can't go out and use those companies, so. But it's something we're looking at. We're also looking at potentially, if we can figure out a way to buy them, is buy some small buses, because those don't fall under the green category. But there's we'd have to cost that out and see.
And we have to get bus drivers. Does anybody have to need a second job?
25 an hour, $1,000 sign.
I was looking for a bigger truck anyway.
No, just, we will extend every possible route at the state CPI rate that come out in mid-June. So like, we don't know, we have to estimate now. But it doesn't mean every company will give us the option. We've already been told by some companies, some certain routes will not be extended. We will go to bid for those routes. That's just,
And June is not our choice, right?
We're in the wrong business.
June 15th when the state announced it.
For sure.
We determined the estimate now, the budget's getting adopted now, and we're very fortunate to be in a situation where we have one more year for a big bus contract. The 30% number that the superintendent talked about is not fake, like other districts are getting higher. Just unfortunate, but we do have to have transportation for our students.
Thank you.
Isn't it true, Brian, that before COVID, we weren't really again, that we had a really good bus contract
Yes.
and that company went out of business and it really hurt us coming out of COVID?
Those buses are
We had-
sitting in Island Park, riding.
We had a few bus companies back then that consolidated and we lost routes. And when they came in and took over, the first year they gave us the price that we were paying to the other companies, which was great. And then they didn't. And so therefore the transportation costs increased immensely. Mrs. Magarachi, Teresa, how much time? We keep taking that one. Okay. All right, go ahead.
Question about the buses. At some point, do you think we'll be outpriced where we have to reduce our mileage or the amount of buses or the amount of schools we bus to?
So mileage is state regulated by when it comes to out of district transportation, it's 15 miles. That's on the state. Mileage in district is voted on by the community. If many people in the audience might remember, there was 10 or 11 years ago, one of the community members tried to actually lessen the mileage requirements for the bus. It would have basically given almost every student a bus in West Hempstead. And if we were in that position right now, we would be in a lot of trouble. But
I mean, lessen the distance in which we go.
you
Like
can't.
instead,
Outside
So-
the district, it's state regulated. It is 15 miles.
so the kids that go to the public school or within district, we can take the buses from them, but we can't take the buses from the private school kids?
No, I don't, I'm not sure I understand what you mean.
You're saying we can't shrink the distance from the 15 miles?
For
Even
private,
if
for
it
out
was
of
to save
district,
our money?
because that is the state regulation.
Okay.
That's max, I'm sorry.
15 miles max.
So are we just above 2 miles?
No.
No, we do not go above 15 miles unless it's a special education that goes outside.
But it's
15,
worth
correct? Right.
15 miles as a profile. So you may drive 20 miles to drive 15 miles. It may take you a good hour.
Because, so an example, when I grew up, I was the only student in West Hempstead that went to a private school outside of district. This was a long time ago, Dan, thank you. And I got the bus from my house, because my house was all the way down by the stables. So I got the bus from there to my school. Couple of years back, we had a child who lived over here by Dunkin' Donuts. She was not eligible for the bus because it was past 15 miles. And it just seemed so weird to me because West Hempstead's this big,
Right,
but she was past 15 miles and it was to the same school, which of course made me want to give it to her, but I couldn't.
right.
So, but that's the point. It could be somebody, kids go to the high school, we know it. My kids got the bus to the high school. 3 houses down, those kids didn't get to the bus to the high school, because once you're outside that mileage regulation, you do not get bused.
I was just thinking of it,
My
if
sister
we shortened it, it might save money.
Was there another question from the audience before I go back to the board? We do have another period at the end of the meeting. Okay, Kurt, you had a point, and
Yeah,
David, you had a.
Just wanted to, based on this slide 4, Brian, and then, the proposed or the estimated increase in transportation expenses, about 16.5, almost 17%. And the projection of transportation aid is about 1.3%.
Right.
So back to the point before, spend more. You would hope to get more money to balance, but the reality is, they're not.
The governor's budget, I don't want, it's not correct in it, but, depends on the routes that we would be increasing.
Okay. Thank you.
David, you had something?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I thought I read this once upon a time. Is the transportation aid based on the prior year's transportation? So possibly that next year we would get aid because of what we're spending this year, or is it specifically on what we have for this year without them knowing what our actual usage is?
The entire state budget's based on estimates, so it's all based on prior year's information, including the transportation aid, but we're already spending $8 million already in transportation, but we're getting not $8 million back, so.
Right. No, I understand that, but my only question is it possible that some of this extra money that we're spending now will have in next year's budget that will help us with whatever concern we're gonna have then?
Their estimate could be based on. So we're good for the moment. I can move forward. Oh. I need a motion to move. And a motion to move docket 3-289.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
I don't know if she's here in the audience, maybe she's in virtual. I just want to welcome Grace Gura, who is currently filling leave replacement at George Washington. She graduated from LIU, which I believe now are the Sharks. They used to be.
Yeah, the Sharks.
They are the Sharks. And she basically stepped out of one classroom, the 22-year-old, and stepped in one of our classrooms as a teacher. And she was pretty dynamic and pretty mature for a young woman, and we're glad to have her aboard. She's been recommended by Snotty, Ms. Karras, Ms. Riley, a whole host of people. Grace, if you're out there, congratulations and welcome to the Rand family. This next one, well, I told her I wasn't going to talk too much, so I will be brief because I will definitely give her our props in June when we have our retirement, 20-year celebrations and things like that. But it's not too many of us left in the admin group anyway. So Miss Noddy, we just accepted Miss Noddy's letter of retirement tonight.
Oh, shouldn't accept.
You already did, take it back.
So Miss Lambo's been here as a teacher and an admin, but Shred is, I don't know what Shred is doing. He's probably walking. So it's down to Miss Nadia and myself, and we came basically together and we've seen a lot together, and I think today sums it up about who she is. I don't know what happened and it doesn't matter, but the sixth grade group picture that always goes in the yearbook had to be done today. And the person who took the picture couldn't be there. So there's Miss Naughty getting the ladder out, climbing the ladder in her full regalia. And if you know anything about Miss Naughty always dresses to a T like Miss Naughty. It's old school. She dresses as a professional every single day, even though sometimes I say, take the heels off and put on some sneakers and go chase the kids, please. But nope, there she is in high heels chasing around. There she was climbing the ladder to make sure that picture was taken and delivered on time to people that it needed to get to. And that kind of speaks to who she is as a person. You know, she's a little like me, with like bang heads together a lot and figure things out. And I've always appreciated that. Maybe at first she didn't understand that, and maybe I didn't understand it either, but we're all coming from a place of love, and she loves the kids. And she's always been an advocate of the kids, even though sometimes parents or teachers might not feel she's an advocate for kids. She is. And you know, the standard, we have a saying we've been using a lot lately, the standard is the standard. It's not a standard, is the standard. We were just talking this week at our regularly scheduled meeting about how we can improve our practice, how the students can improve their reading and writing skills, you know, and I'm not saying it happens here because it never would happen here. But sometimes people check out at the end before it's over and they give up the race. They're like, yeah, I'll coast, I'll do the bare minimum. She's not doing the bare minimum. She's going to run and lean across that finish line. So what else can you say about a human being that dedicates their lives to children? Yeah, I have a lot more to say about her, but I think today summed it up because I was at jury duty at the time, so I was a little bored, and that was definitely a good laugh seeing Miss Nadia on the ladder, and thank God she didn't fall. Otherwise, I would have blamed Pete. Or Brian would have to fill out another nicer form and all that good stuff, but you know, yeah, she's going to sprint to the end. And I know she has pretty large expectations for the kids, students in grades 4, 5, and 6, and pretty large expectations for the staff for the next 2.5 months. So Howie, if you thought you were coasting, brother. Yeah, she's a good one. She'll be hard to replace, and we wish her all the best. And I'll stop now because let's go sideways on this one. So congratulations to you, my friend.
I am just gonna add, for those of you that were parents, when I was a parent at GW, one of my favorite memories, and I will be happy to find and share the video with you, and Ms. Hopkins, you can test me.
Howard, definitely.
Was, slime day. Slime day with Miss Naughty, sitting in a chair and watching the teachers pour buckets of green slime on top of her because the kids read a certain amount of books, and it was, that's a true testament to, this is what the kids want. Not. But it was truly one of like the better days to watch an educator and an administrator. We've had some real winners taped to the wall. We've taped them to the wall, we've thrown stuff at them. But Miss Naughty being.
Throwing stuff out and she broke a toe.
She did, I do remember. No, she was in the dunk tank.
Okay.
But they were
She was a true champ and she took it like a true champ. Watching as a matter of fact, I think you were one of the bucket holders.
Neither.
A video. But it was honestly a pleasure and I've gotten to know Miss Naughty very well over, all the years she was here, and we'll just leave it at that. And, I think fostered a very good relationship, and I'll be very sad to see her go. So thank you very much. Yeah, well, I have to move forward. That's, okay, so we need a motion to move docket 3-290 and 3-291. So moved. Any questions? All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. I need a motion to move docket 3-292.
So moved.
Second. Any questions? All in favor? Aye. Motion passes.
All opposed?
All opposed?
We voted against it.
Motion passes.
Okay.
I need a motion to move docket 3-293 through 3-296.
So moved. Second.
Any question? All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. I need a motion to move dockets 3-297.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. I need a motion to move docket 3-304, 3-304 through 3-307.
So moved.
Second. Any questions? All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Excuse me. I need a motion to move 3-283.
So moved. Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You'll get it started from the beginning.
I think you skipped some of that.
Yeah, you said double line.
The one that said 3.
No.
No.
I
think-
Okay. To 303.
Thank you.
Yeah, 3.
Wait, please tell me which one I should.
303. 303.
I need a motion to move dockets 3-298 through 3-303. That's where I started to stumble. David, you move this, second.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor? Aye. Motion passes, sorry. I need a motion to move docket 3-308.
So moved.
Second. Any questions? All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. There's no board privilege of the floor at this meeting. Future meeting dates are on the back of the agenda, including the dates of the budget hearing and the budget vote. We've now reached the period for district residents and Island Park or employees to address the board. This individual will be limited to 3 minutes of non-confidential agenda items with an overall maximum of 20 minutes if needed. We have any questions from the audience? Mrs. Magarach?
Question. So you just adopted the budget? That's what the vote was?
Yes,
So it was all except for one in favor?
correct.
Okay, I know I have to direct to you, but the person who voted no didn't even ask any questions. So I'm wondering if you are speaking to your board. Because was everybody a part of conversations with the budget?
We've all been sitting.
Okay, so you don't ask any questions publicly. I want to know, are the board members gonna be maybe suggested that they don't make YouTube videos or go out and bash the budget and say, oh, vote no, the kids don't need this, we can cut another 10 teachers. Yes, it would be great. They would love clubs and sports, but they don't need them.
Let me answer that question.
I'd like to
Correct.
know
It
if
was-
that is gonna be,
it was-
Wait, one
I
second.
just feel like
Okay,
we
You
were
got-
talking about being cohesive.
you got your point.
So I'm just wondering, is the board gonna be instructed to be cohesive?
Mr. Glass, you have something to
Okay,
say?
I know my rights as a board member. I don't have to be instructed to do anything.
Oh,
But in any event, to answer your question, I raised questions last week. For those who were here, heard the questions. And in the interest of not belaboring and keeping people here longer than they needed to be, I opted not to revisit the same issues again. But I feel any different about them.
I have, you're 100% allowed to
Lorraine,
vote no.
we're not going back and forth.
That wasn't the
That's-
question. I
we're
was not objecting to your no vote.
Lorraine, we're not going back and forth.
Yes, Ms.
Mrs. Keelty.
I have a question. So, on the health and welfare services, I read that the figure that you charge for children for health services outside of the district, how do you come up with that figure?
It's a calculation based on the actual expenditures that we have by the students, so it's a per cost per student. It gets sent out to, in the sense that we have, say, a nurse at Hank that has services provided for students to bill the outside district.
Right, so I mean, it's anyway, so, how many outside districts, do you have any idea, are billed this?
We do get a list of every student that attends, that's
Right.
not a West Hempstead
That's
student.
not a West Hampstead resident. I mean, I was wondering how you come up with that figure.
Figure is, we do take consideration the nurse,
Right.
any additional costs, OT, PT.
Right, because we pay for that out of the budget.
Correct, it's in our budget, so we do try to invoice other districts to cover the cost for the student. who
I mean, because it
receive the
seems
services.
for what we're servicing, that amount seems to be low. That's why I asked that question. It was $1,697.43. I wrote it down. So
Right,
that's just per student.
One district though.
And that's,
District is.
no, that's the amount that's budgeted per student, correct, for out of district. According to the docket I read. Did I read it correctly?
do you know which docket item it was? I just want to make sure I'm the same.
3-293, wasn't it under that? No, wait a minute. Let me-
So that's 3-293 is correct.
Right, and there was I read it. So I was just wondering how you come up with that figure.
This is our kids going out, not.
Yeah, this is
That's
not-
not what we bill, that's what we pay.
This is the approval of costs that we would be paying these, I guess, 6 districts.
Yeah, okay, that's what I want to clarify. Okay,
Right, this is not incoming, this is outgoing costs.
yeah, it just seems, yeah, okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
But it's different per district, correct? Like there are different numbers on the stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, per district. is-
Depending upon what
because how
service.
many
Well, it depends on-
According to the
On
number,
what
right,
that child is
Yeah,
getting,
right.
yes,
thank you.
and their costs.
Mhm.
I'm sorry.
If I remember correctly from reading that, what they do is they take all of the services that are used in the bunch for all the different things divided by all students that possibly could use it within the school building and within the school district. And that's how it comes up with a cost, which is why every school. is
I was
different.
just wondering because it seems to be a low amount
Right, but that's.
for the amount of services that are provided, especially with special needs children. There's a multitude of services that are provided. And if that's what the cost is, let me tell you, that's a
No,
large.
it's what we're paying to them, not what
Yeah.
they're paying to us. Do we have other questions from the audience at this time? Wagner?
This is a direct, conversation for class. And respectfully, I just have to say something. Last week, you had mentioned that you're a numbers person, right? You're a numbers person. You look at the budget as if, you know, you need to see what needs to be cut. I just urge you, by the way, I'm Robin Wagner, kindergarten teacher, also vice president of the teachers union. So I'm speaking on behalf of the teachers in the district. I would urge you and encourage you, please walk the hallways of our schools, not just looking at the numbers, but looking at the productions that are happening in our classrooms. The children are being their best selves because of the support the teachers are providing. So when you're looking at budgetary items, please do not just look at us as numbers. It is so important for us to feel as though we are professionals in the field, not just a number. So it was something that was just eating at me all week, and I just wanted to address that respectfully. Please, as a representative of our board, please walk through the hallways, see what we're doing, and just don't count us as numbers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I respond? And respond. Don't get me wrong. I think what's going on in the classrooms, the buildings, great, all great stuff. I have no criticism of anything that goes on here. It's all terrific. My concern is I would like to see us have a good school district here for many years to come. And in order to get there, we can't every year plan to utilize reserves to cover planned expenditures. Reserves are really more for unplanned expenditures. So if you think from a financial perspective and think about how you're going to make it through the long term, unfortunately, sometimes you'll need to reduce expense. We all do it in our homes, in our families, budgets, and everything else. Things change, and we have to do whatever we can to make sure our income equals our expenses. And so really, what I do and what I say, and some people are going to say that I'm not telling the truth. I always tell the truth, but I'm doing it for the students of the districts. And I want to see that this district goes on forever and ever. And that's why I'm acting the way I act.
We'd love to see you as part of our team in the district.
Yes, I am, but that doesn't necessarily mean we'll always agree.
But
Okay.
you back to, Janine.
Janine Galena. So, Mr. Glass, I hear everything you're saying and I have a question about that. Saving money for the district seems to be only happening when budget comes around. And it seems we have to take out of our school budget all the time, but we don't go after the library budget. We don't really discuss, again, not to bring it up, but I have to, the amount of revenue that's not being brought in by the exorbitant amount of clergy homes and tax exemptions. Are you working that hard to find that revenue anywhere else? Because you have said, why don't we use the refund, the reserves in the past? Now we're using the reserves because we're forced to. Because every year we're having to just scrape down and take away from our students that are in the buildings. And so I really have to understand, like, what's the purpose? To just scale down the school budget, or are we really trying, what's the goal? That's my true question. What is the goal?
I think I just answered that question. I'd like to see the district be around forever and ever and continue to provide the good services that it provides. And my way of looking at things, to do that, you have to remain fiscally solvent as you move forward and not rely on the fact, well, always in the past, things have improved. Sometimes things are bad, but you have to deal with what is and act accordingly.
So may I ask, what is not fiscally?
I'm just gonna stop you because we're not gonna go back and forth. And
Okay.
this portion, the question portion of the meeting is simply for non-confidential agenda items. I do understand the budget is on that, but Mr. Blas will be here at the end of the meeting if anybody wants to ask him additional questions. If you have questions about the agenda, please raise your hand. Ms. Merle.
Emily Merle, District President. So in addition to the 8 positions that we abolished, the 3 resignations that you accepted tonight too, are they those teachers being replaced or are they?
Yes.
Mr. Zelig, you had a question?
Yes, I know there's been a lot of talk about the religious exemptions, churches and synagogues. Is it possible for the board to comment on how they feel about trying to remove this exemption? I know it's a state law, but is it possible for the board to comment?
I don't believe that that's a conversation that the board can comment on. It's a state regulation. It's not for us to create whether or not that goes away or not. The issue is that people keep commenting on it and or don't understand that when those homes and or storefronts and or churches or whoever get purchased, that revenue, that tax base gets spread out to the entire community. So I think that's something that people need to understand why it continues to come up. But for us to make a judgment call on whether or not that exemption should go away or not would be irresponsible. And it's not a conversation that we had as a whole, so I would not comment on it at this point. Mrs. Magarachi.
I just want to say that I think also what a lot of people don't understand, and if it's not part of your world, you don't. But public school and private schools are two different animals. They follow two different sets of rules, two sets of different regulations, and totally fiscally, we don't match. If a private school needs a emergency boiler, they can do a fundraiser and shop around for the cheapest one. Public schools do not have that privilege, and I don't believe that a lot of the private school parents realize that. We teach our children to think for themselves, to think outside the box, that everyone's ideas and opinions matter, and that it is okay to disagree, yet work together to come up with a solution together. We don't teach them to bulldoze your way in and try and take over, because that's how you create a problem, not solve one. That's how you create a division, not bring a community together. I would like to see if board members say they're not just in here to pick apart the school budget, like pointed out, and that they're here for the children, but yet I'm at many events, and I don't mean just sporting events, concerts and plays and shows. And I don't see a lot of you. I see most of you, but some of you are not at anything. So I feel like maybe if you were a little bit more of a part of it, like Miss Wagner said, show up, see the kids' faces light up as they learn something, see them in their element, see how they respond with their teacher. Maybe your heart might feel a little different, and maybe you would say, hey, let's not take from here. Why don't we see, maybe the school library, the public library, we could cut a little less this year. They just redid the children's room. They have this. Maybe we take from there. I thought that was a valid point. And I think it's okay to disagree and have different opinions. It's how you handle it and conduct yourself afterwards.
Thank you, Mrs. Magarachi. Do we have any other questions from the
I
audience?
just want to add, first of all, it was my opinion about the lobbying, Mr. Zelik, just so you understand that. That's how I feel about it. But in addition to religious organizations, anybody who files for a grievance on their house, they receive it and reduce their taxes. Understand this. That becomes the burden of everybody else in the community. So when somebody gets a tax break, and there are houses in West Hempstead who have gotten significant tax breaks, it doesn't disappear. It gets spread out amongst everybody else. And so it's not a freebie.
I don't think she's saying don't break it.
No, I'm just saying, so you understand.
Send extra.
No, but people don't know that. People think that, yes, it's good for a tax break, but it is spread out. That's more that's spread out.
Right, and that goes with.
And that goes with everything else.
Any exemptions.
It's layer on top of layer, exactly.
So just so long as everybody is. And again, before, I'm sorry, Mrs. Khan, did you have a question?
Yeah, but it's.
No, go ahead.
I don't know if this already exists. But is there a preferred list of contractors from the district to build houses that give discounts on building houses up? Because once the house is built up, then the taxes that house accrues every year will be increased. And that contractor would make up whatever discount he gave in volume. And that way the levy would be then drawn into the larger houses and alleviate the tax burden on the smaller houses. But this could exist already.
Yeah, it's not something that would come from the school district. We
It wouldn't be like the West Hempstead list of preferred contractors.
No, we can't promote.
Like Angie's
Yeah.
list.
Right, we don't have the ability to promote contractors over another contractor. I mean, I'm sure somewhere out there on a Facebook page, there could be a group like that, but
Sometimes like on a school calendar, they sell ad space
Yeah.
on the.
we don't
top
have the ability to do that.
Public schools can't do that.
Public schools can't do that. You can only do that, and that's one of the things, right. But that's one of the things that the private schools
Every year with the higher.
community can do,
I am with you.
can do that, but here we're not allowed to sell ad space in that manner. With that being said, are there any other questions from the audience? Okay, so I do want to say, oh,
That question.
Mr. Spano, go ahead.
Okay. I know we do a lot of transportation in the district. What is the percentage of students now staying in-house public school and as far as in-house private school, as far as out of district public and private schools? We have that?
What do you mean by, so,
Like the percentage of students that are actually using the bus for our main schools, like Chestnut, Cornwell, GW, and the high school.
so public school students versus private school students?
Yeah, but those that are staying in West Hempstead in those schools, as far as outside of West Hempstead to other schools outside the district.
The only thing I can tell you, and I can't answer that question because I'm not sure I apologize, I'm not sure I completely understand it.
I'll email you.
Email me that, but what I can tell you is approximately, and maybe I have the number wrong, approximately 45% of the school-aged children in our district go out of district for their education. So that's a huge number if you actually take that into account. And nobody at this table, and I'm gonna speak for all 7 of us, no one at this table is saying, do not send your child to private school if that's your religious belief or you do it for a specific reason. 20 years ago, I did it for my own child, for my own reason.
So,
Go ahead.
You can ask that.
two things.
You can answer.
Depends on what school they go to.
Yeah, that's true. First of all, just to address that, right now, because we get the request April 1st, about 1,200 people, students requested transportation for next year outside of the district. I'm gonna say it again, and I'm gonna keep saying it until it sinks in, because that's what we do as educators. If you are a school-aged child in this community, then you belong to us. I'd appreciate it if everybody could come up with new phrases. You want to talk about transportation? Say the word transportation. You want to say out of district and in district? Fine. Children did nothing. Not scolding anybody, but it came up earlier and I'm going to say it again. I can't stop the ridiculousness of social media. I don't care who criticizes me tomorrow in their own personal critiques, because I'm going to use the phrase again. The purveyors of intolerance are out there. You have to ignore them. Not okay. Not okay. We're not modeling what we want for our children. Now, as I do with the administrative team when we have our own internal conversation, I will take the blame too, because I'm obviously not doing a good enough job. You want to fight the facts, fight the facts. Someone makes up a story, yeah, you have a right to be annoyed. State your position, state a fact, and then walk away. I'm as proud as the kid who graduates. That lives in West Hempstead. What I care about, can they think for themselves and not listen to anybody and make an informed decision? We don't teach people what to think. We teach them how to think. You know what else? We do a pretty good damn job of it. And if you think we don't, look at the number. Facts are the facts. Everyone wants to talk about Malvern a few years ago. Why does that conversation go away? And I'm not being disrespectful to Malvern. Look, some of them are really our kids there in Lakeview. I used to hear about Mineola. All that money, when they sold their buildings, you guys know that they get about $2 million a year to spend from the buildings they sold for the next 20 years, right? So when they're buying all that tech and doing all that good stuff, and I have nothing but the utmost respect for the superintendent and the people who work there, because I know a lot. I don't hear any more nonsense about the numbers. You come here and criticize, oh, kids can't read, kids can't do. I don't hear it anymore, and the numbers aren't even where we want them. But it makes some valid points. We have to be fiscally responsible, yeah. You also have to make sure, use the phrase, some people in the room, mid-90s needs to say mid-90s. There are no exceptions to that rule. Because as Bert verified for me last year when Byers was giving me a hard time, you know, well, why is it 100? Well, you all know, as we say down south, 95 is 100.
It is 100.
It is 100 most times, not all the time, but most of the time. So reasoned debate is good. Even getting loud at times is good. People thought I went at somebody last week and somebody came at me. Neither one of those things is accurate. We were passionate about what we believe in. Oh, doesn't bother me none. A lot of things happened after that none of you are ever going to know about, and that's how it should be. How can, just for the love of all good in the world, can we all just try to make an attempt? If you're going to, I'm not going to say get off of social media. If you're going to go on there, have civil discourse. And for people who now are going to start backing off and running and hiding, because that came across my desk today from 3 different sources, and I'm a 3 different source fan. You're the one who started it. You can't create something, create the monster, create the cancer, and then walk away from it. You need to own that. Everybody needs to own that. Everybody who's a part of it. Not okay. I remember in the fall, people showed up here because of a flyer that was sent to represent a certain population of people in this community. I represent them all. I represent them all, whether they're black, whether they're brown, whether they're white, whether they're Jewish, whether they're atheist, whether they're I could care less. You know what we do here? You don't have clothes, we put clothes on your back. You don't have food, we feed you. But you better get your rear end of class and you better learn something, because at the end of the day, education is the silver bullet. I'm going to say silver bullet in this day and age. Education is the silver bullet. And that's the bottom line. You want, you're all adults, so am I. I'm not going on there. You want updates, you're going to get them in my weekly update. It comes out every Friday. You can find it. It's not that hard. But to the purveyors of ignorance, knock it off. It is not okay. It's not okay for the students. Thank you.
So again, I want to thank everybody that came out and joined us tonight. This is certainly the best way to get your information and to get your questions answered. However, I will just state that as always, central office is always available to take questions and for you to get facts. I am always available to answer an email, answer a phone call, meet with somebody, have a conversation with somebody. I do not engage in discourse via social media, so please don't try to reach me that way, but I'm always available, and I'm sure that the rest of the board members would say the same. So have a good night. Enjoy your week. Happy holiday to those celebrating next week. And one more round of applause for Ms. Nadi. All in favor? Aye. Have a good night, everybody.